The Atlanta Braves are still searching for their first series win of the year after a disappointing weekend against the Miami Marlins, but hope could be on the horizon in the form of Ronald Acuna Jr. We'll give the latest on him and give you our best and worst of the weekend in this episode of Lockedon Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host of Locked On Braves, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on Twitter at shortstopball. You can check out my bio there to see everywhere I am covering the game of baseball, including the Atlanta Braves in written form over at tomahawktake.com. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in your questions, comments, feedback so that you can be part of the show as well. Subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to us on YouTube as well, as it does tremendously help out the show. And thanks for making Locked On Braves your first listen each and every day. We post episodes daily, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and are free and available on all platforms. And before we get into today's episode, let me remind you that this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about our best and worst of the weekend. And then we're also going to talk about Ronald Acuna Jr. and his potential return, and give you a minor league update on the Braves farm system. But let's start with the worst of the weekend. The Braves coming off a series loss to the Miami Marlins at home, a series in which they didn't face the Marlins' two best starting pitchers in Sandy Alcantara and Pablo Lopez, and yet they still could not get their first series win of the year. That, to me, is by far the worst of the weekend. And I need to preface all this by saying that what I'm talking about, what I'm going to talk about in this first segment here, is going to be a lot of downside and going to be a lot of negative. That is negative in a microcosm of what is happening right now. It's not an indication of how the team will be down the road, a month from now, 2 months from now, at the end of the season. I still very much believe that this Braves team is one of the best teams in baseball. I still believe they will easily make the postseason at this point. I believe they will be a very good team, but much like last year, and they were 7-10 through the first 17 games last year, they're struggling out of the gate and playing really bad baseball in a lot of different aspects. And it's hard to watch. And look, this team last year for 4 months, I was sitting here saying this team is one of the more frustrating teams I've ever witnessed and I've ever watched. And then we know what happened. Things turned on at the end and they won a World Series. So by now, as a Braves fan, you should be prepared for that. You should understand that what happens now, while frustrating, is not a clear indication of what will happen the rest of the season. But what I'm going to talk about, the things I'm going to mention today, are what I'm seeing right now. And that's all we can do, is talk about what we are seeing right now. But that's not necessarily an indication of what we're going to see a month, even weeks from now with this Braves team. We know they're more than capable. They're more than talented enough to turn things around quickly. But losing this series at home to the Miami Marlins, again, not facing their two top starting pitchers, that is just not good and borderline unacceptable, honestly. That just can't happen. Again, not worried at all about this team, again, from what we know from last year, but certainly a frustrating weekend, a frustrating start to the season for the Braves, especially when you consider they've had a bit of a soft schedule at home to begin the year against the Reds, Nats, and now the Marlins, and they're 4-6 in those games. Unlike last year, I don't believe the Mets will slow down at all. And if you fall behind early, I think they will run away with this division. Obviously, You still have the wild card teams now and an extra one at that. But the Mets are not going to slow down and let the Braves come back and win this division this time around. So you can't expect to get off to this slow start and then just come back and take over the division. So that is one thing that is a little bit more concerning than what we saw last year, and not being able to win these series against teams that they honestly should be winning series against is a bit frustrating and could come back to bite them in the end. Another worst of the weekend for me was the bullpen, and I don't think we're going to have too many bad series like this from this bullpen. They're just too good, too talented, but this was a bad weekend for the Braves bullpen. There was only one instance on the weekend when a Braves reliever came into a game and didn't allow a walk or a hit, and that was on Sunday when Tyler Matzik only faced one batter and struck him out. So any reliever for the Braves that came into a game in that Marlins series gave up a walk or a hit. That is going to be a rarity, I believe, for this Braves bullpen, but it just tells you that this Braves bullpen was not very good over the weekend. On Saturday, they blew a lead in the 6th and 7th inning. Again, there aren't going to be too many games this year where the bullpen blows 2 leads in the 6th inning or later. At least I hope not, and I just don't believe that will be the case. Again, I think these arms are too good. It was just a weird weekend for them. Colin McHugh, especially his second rough outing at home, not worried about it. I wrote about it actually on tomahawktake.com over the weekend, and all the numbers are there, all the StatCast numbers are there to tell you that he's going to be just fine. The one thing I did notice is he is throwing his cutter a lot more this year, over 50% of the time, compared to last year when he was throwing his slider primarily over 50% of the time. And this year, his cutter is getting hit very hard, over 450 average on balls in play against his cutter. So that's one thing I do see with Colin McHugh. Needs to start featuring that slider more often. It is his best pitch. I don't know why they made the change this year to start throwing his cutter more, but that is something I think he needs to start looking into going forward. Again, maybe that's just familiarity from the catchers that he's that are receiving him with the Braves this year, but that to me is just an obvious change that needs to take place. He needs to start throwing that slider more often. And then this is not just on the bullpen's problem, but an overall pitching problem. The walks. The walks are highly concerning, very frustrating, and it seems to be start to start. One game the Braves pitchers won't, they'll walk 2 or 3 batters, which, you can live with. But then they have outings where, like on Saturday and Sunday, where the pitching staff allowed 7 walks in a game. That's far too many. As a pitching staff, they've issued 58 walks on the season. That's tied for the 10th most in all of baseball. I honestly can't believe that they're not worse than that. And the Marlins have played 2 fewer games, and they're tied for 10th with the Marlins. So only 2 teams ahead of the Braves, or only 2 teams that have more walks than the Braves, have played the same amount of games. So the walks are a very bad trend right now, and that's what just really makes things frustrating, is all the free passes that they're giving out to the other team. My next worst of the weekend is Adam Duvall. Look, you listen to me on the podcast. I've gotten killed for it in the comments throughout the year, but I'm just not the biggest Adam Duvall fan, especially if they have messed with these baseballs again, which I know there's kind of that theory going out there. I don't believe I've heard anything confirmed on that. I think part of it's just early season. It seems like we complain about the lack of offense in baseball at the beginning of every year, and then it picks back up. So we'll wait and see what happens in June and July. But if they have changed the baseball again, that is a very bad thing for Adam Duvall, who relies on those home runs for his production. But not a good weekend for Adam. 1 hit in his last 5 games with no walks and 8 strikeouts. Again, if this guy is not hitting home runs, he does not do much for you. He's going to strike out a ton. He doesn't walk. He does play very good defense, so I should throw that in there as well. He does give you very good defense in the outfield, but this guy has to get his home runs to be a productive player in your lineup, and when those aren't coming, it's a very black spot in the batting order. Another negative, the outfield defense. Look, we knew coming into the season it would be rough until Acuna comes back. And even then, when Acuna comes back, how long until he is up to full speed defensively? We could see him in the DH spot a good bit for a while. When he comes back, I definitely don't think they just run him out there in center field right away. And it's not just the errors for this outfield defense. For me, it's the lack of range. It seems like so many balls are falling in that with better jumps and more speed, they could be caught. I mean, there's a couple of balls on the warning track that, would have been tough plays, but if you had some above average defenders out there in the outfield, I feel like they're plays that could have been caught. You look at the Arcia play in the fifth inning on Sunday. It's a tough catch, but it was a bad route to the ball. Arcia is twisted up, and I don't blame him. He's not an outfielder, but it's still a ball. It hit his glove. I feel like an average to above average outfielder would have caught that. There's another ball in that game in the gap in between left center field that landed on the warning track, hung up in the air for a long time. Again, I feel like a center fielder with, good speed could have gotten to that ball. And there's just so many balls that are dropping in front of these outfielders. That to me is the big thing with this outfield. It's not necessarily the errors, it's just the lack of range, not getting to some of these baseballs that's really frustrating. And teams are running at will on these outfield arms. You saw it several times on the weekend with Marlins runners going first to third. Jesus Aguilar went first to third on a single to left field because he knows Marcell Ozuna isn't going to throw him out. And that is a huge problem right now with this Braves outfield. And finally, my last worst of the weekend is just timely hitting with runners in scoring position. And this is a stat that, look, it'll ebb and flow throughout the season. I'm sure they'll have much better days, but 3 for 26 with runners in scoring position on the weekend, including 1 for 14 on Sunday. They left 22 runners on base over the 3-game series. That is tough, and that is highly frustrating as a fan when you have all these opportunities and just not coming up with hits. I think they had 1 hit with runners in scoring position in each game, leading to that 3 for 26. Part of that's timely hitting. Look, Riley on Sunday, he doubled in his first 2 at bats, but then he came up with the bases loaded in a big spot and grounded into a double play. I mean, that's tough. He did end up hitting a big home run in the 9th inning, and I'm not blaming Riley for anything, but it just seems like, when the Braves get a hit, it's in a low impact spot. They're not coming up big in the big moments right now. Again, I think that will ultimately even out, but it is highly, highly frustrating right now when your offense is mostly struggling to score runs. I know they did a much better job on Saturday's game, but overall, this offense just struggling to find consistency and putting big innings together, stringing hits together. And that just makes it even tougher when you're having runners on base. They had 8 walks on Sunday, just not able to capitalize and bring those runs in. It wasn't all bad over the weekend. Next, we'll take a look at the weekend's best for the Braves, including another great outing from Kyle Wright. With spring in the air, it's time of renewal and growth, personally and professionally. As your small business grows, LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job, the purple hashtag hiring frame, to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, you're going to try to be a little bit more positive in the second segment, looking at the best of the weekend for the Atlanta Braves. And I thought the starting pitching was solid. Look, it was a struggle for Ian Anderson and both Bryce Elder in particular, who has got to get the walks under control. But man, does he know how to get out of some jams, and that will be particularly great down the road once he does get that command under control. But I thought the starters did just fine over the weekend, gave up just 4 earned runs in 15 and 2/3 innings. That's a 2.31 ERA. Usually when the Braves starters hold down an offense to 2 runs or less through 5 innings, like all the Braves starters did in this series, you like the chances of the Braves winning. Again, the bullpen was not particularly great this weekend for whatever reason. I'm not concerned about that going forward. But more often than not, when the starting pitcher holds the opposing offense to 2 earned or less over 5 innings and hands it over to the bullpen, I like the Braves' chances of winning those games. And Kyle Wright, he was by far the best performance of the weekend for the Atlanta Braves. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and a career-high 11 strikeouts on Friday. He ended up loading the bases with 2 outs in the 6th inning, and Snit let him finish the game. Thought that was a great move. Talked about it over on the postcast with Grant McCauley. Again, if you haven't checked that out, make sure that you're subscribed to Locked On Sports Atlanta so you see the postcast after every game with me and Grant. Kyle Wright had 20 swings and misses on his outing on Friday. Again, just a overly dominant start for him. I was trying to hold back my excitement. As you know, you listened to me in the offseason. I thought Kyle Wright had a chance to be that breakout performer for the Atlanta Braves. And even still, I'm trying to hold back my excitement. But through 3 starts now, I'm beginning to believe we are finally going to get to see this version of Kyle Wright, and I am here for it. I'm excited for it. He may not be this dominant all year long. I'm sure the league will start to adjust as him, and he'll need to adjust back. But, I mean, again, I talked about it a bunch. You just see the confidence from him. He knows he can get hitters out. He knows what pitches he needs to make, and he trusts his stuff, and that's the biggest thing for him and always has been. And then my last positive from the weekend for the Braves, unfortunately, not a lot of positives, but I think we did see some good signs from Dansby Swanson starting to come out of his slump. Sunday was ugly, that's for sure, with 3 strikeouts, but he did at least have a walk in that game. But again, on Friday, I thought he was fantastic. Maybe his best game of the year. He was 1 for 2 with a walk, and his only out was a line out. And the at-bat where he got a hit, it should have been a walk. The pitch was below the zone. The officiating was terrible, particularly on Friday and Sunday. The home plate umpire was terrible. But he didn't let that bother him. He came right back, hit a 3-2 pitch in the center field for a base hit. Again, I thought Friday was the best game he's had all year. And on Saturday, he picked up 2 more hits and drove in 4 runs. So, again, back-to-back really good games, 4 hits and 2 walks in his last 5 games. That's certainly an improvement. So, hopefully, we're starting to see Dansby Swanson come out of things a little bit. Ronald Acuna Jr. is looking like his old self during his rehab assignment, and we could see him sooner than expected. I'll give you that update and cover the highlights from the farm, from down on the farm next. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. Not only are they best tasting with flavors like cookies and cream, coconut, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, some of my favorites, but they're great for you as well. Most of them only contain about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a typical candy bar, which can have anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. So you can understand why Built Bars are not only great tasting, but great for you as well. And if you haven't tried their puffs, you need to. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they are a treat. And like all Built Bars, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. So go to built.com, use our promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Hope could be on the way in the form of Ronald Acuna Jr. sooner rather than later. During his rehab assignment at AAA Gwinnett, he's 5 for 14 with 6 walks in 5 games, alternating between right field and DH. He beat out an infield single the other day in a game, also scored from second on an infield single, and he's stolen 3 bases, showing you that the legs seem just fine. Saw a quote from Ryan Snitker that said it looks like maybe he's being a little too aggressive down there, but Ronnie is going to be Ronnie. I've said it all along. Once he comes back, you're not going to hold him back. He doesn't know how to slow down. He's going to play his game, but that's certainly great to see. Good to see him running around the bases, doing just fine. Snit and AA have both said that the target date remains May the 6th for him to return, but they both also hinted at the fact that he could be up sooner depending on how things go. And this upcoming week will be good for him. Minor league baseball is obviously off on Monday, as they traditionally are now, but he's scheduled to play in the field in 3 out of 4 days this upcoming week. And I'm thinking that if all goes well, I think we see Ronald Acuna Jr. return in New York for that 4-game series against the Mets starting on May 2nd, which would be wonderful news for Braves fans. So hopefully all continues to go well this week, and we will see Ronald Acuna Jr. sooner rather than later. I want to give you a quick update down on the farm in Gwinnett. Outside of Acuna and Travis Demeritte, obviously Demeritte was called up. It wasn't a great offensive week for anyone at Gwinnett. On the pitching side, Tukey had a good outing after getting called up to the majors and then getting sent back down. He gave up just 1 hit with no walks, which is huge for Tukey, and 4 strikeouts in 4 innings on Friday night. William Woods had a good week, not allowing a hit or a walk in 2 2/3 innings with 7 strikeouts. At Mississippi, Drew Lugbauer was 6 for 18 this past week with a home run and 8 walks. Jesse Franklin was 6 for 21 with a pair of home runs. Luke Waddell was 7 for 18 with a pair of walks and just 1 strikeout. On the pitching side at Mississippi, Darius Vines gave up just 2 earned runs on 5 hits and a walk over 6 1/3 innings with 5 strikeouts in his lone start of the week. And then former first-round pick Jared Schuster went 7 innings, allowing just 2 earned on 5 hits and a walk with 4 strikeouts. At Rome, Bo Phillip was 7 for 18 with a home run and 3 walks on the week. Justin Henry Malloy was 7 for 23 with a home run and 6 walks. On the pitching side, Andrew Hoffman struck out 11 batters in 6 innings while giving up just 1 earned run on 3 hits with no walks. Luis Diavila pitched 6 shutout innings in his start, allowing just 2 hits with no walks and 5 strikeouts. Dylan Dodd and Tanner Gordon also had solid starts. It was a good week at Rome for starting pitching for sure. And then lastly, down in Augusta, the Green Jackets, Brendal Mesquita was 6 for 17 with 5 walks on the week, while Caleb Durbin also had 6 hits last week, including 3 doubles. Landon Leach, a second-round pick by the Twins in 2017, tossed 6 shutout innings this past week, allowing just a hit and a walk with 8 strikeouts. JJ Niekro was great out of the bullpen for Augusta, allowing just a hit and a walk over 3 1/3 innings with 5 strikeouts. So that is your farm report for the week. I might start doing those more on Mondays, considering those are off days, so I can give you an update for what happened the previous week. And the Braves obviously having off day on Monday today before they begin another homestand against the Chicago Cubs, or have a home series against the Chicago Cubs this week. But that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Lockedon Braves. You can follow me at Shortstop Ball. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.